From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell and welcome to Stumped. With me for the ABC in Sydney is Jim Maxwell, and Chari Sharma is with us for Akashvani in Bangalore. Now, you know that we've been following the story of the Afghanistan refugee women's team very closely here on Stumped and their quest to play international cricket one day. Well, to recap, when the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in August 2021, women were excluded from sport and public life. And the players who'd only recently been contracted to the Afghanistan Cricket Board fled the country, many of them resettling in Australia, where they rebuilt their lives, but struggled to get any recognition from the International Cricket Council. Now, through the work of extraordinary individuals and supported by Cricket Australia, an Afghanistan Women's 11 played its first match in Melbourne in January 2025. Later that year, the group were in India doing training camps at the same time as the 50-over World Cup, after the ICC had eventually announced a funding package. Well, next month, the women will be starting a landmark tour to England in another phase of their development. They'll get high-performance training and they'll play a series of T20 friendly matches. But there are still questions to be asked about what will happen in the longer term. Well, I've been speaking to the ECB's Deputy Chief Executive and Managing Director of England Women, Claire Connor, and I asked her just how this tour's come about.
Yeah, we've been planning it, I suppose, operationally since February, so quite a while now. Lots of sort of complicated bits to sort of string together, as you can imagine, and at a busy time with, you know, our own sort of domestic season and the World Cup, the Women's World Cup. But yeah, really excited with where we've got to, and the fact that all the visas have been approved. So hopefully no last minute hurdles there.
So what will this trip look like for them? And when it was announced, lots of people jumping on social media to say, well, you know, who are they playing? Where will they be playing? Will we be able to watch? Just what will the sort of level of T20 matches be that they'll be playing, for example, and whereabouts?
They've dispersed as a group across sort of where they live in, again, mostly Melbourne, Canberra, so they play regular club cricket. But they, you know, let's be honest, they've had a lot more important challenges in their lives to overcome and to confront than you know, kind of they're part-time, they're recreational cricketers now, you know, they're club cricketers, and so pulling together an itinerary that is challenging enough. They're going to play an MCC Foundation Select 11. The MCC Foundation are going to select a sort of Premier 11, I guess, from their participants. So they'll be playing them at Wormsley, which is the, you know, sort of new partner venue to.
So they're mainly school level cricketers.
Yeah, they'll be sort of late teen, and again, they will be much more used to playing regular cricket. They will have had the great fortune by being part of the MCC Foundation Hub program to have had really regular training and development opportunities and the chance to play competitive games. So we'll see how that one plays out. They'll also be playing the UK Women's Army team, right, many of whom will have served in Afghanistan. So
wow, that
should be a really kind of powerful,
quite a poignant fixture.
Yeah, for sure. They're also playing the UK Women Armed Forces 11, which is obviously a combined team from across the services. They're playing them at Fenners, which is the first class ground at Cambridge. And also up there, they'll play against Cambridge University women. And then they're playing a couple of other games, another MCC 11, Women's 11, and they're also playing against another touring side, a girls team who are coming over. Again, team of late teenage age girls from a charity called Catch Trust, and it's a project that we've been working with close. MCC Foundation have been working closely with, and it was set up by Gary Kirsten. It's a cricket project in a township in Cape Town.
Former India coach and of course South African.
Yeah. I think we need to sort of manage people's expectation about the standard, but I suspect that people would want to go through curiosity, but also to show support, I think.
So this tour follows on from a tour of India, and this is all part of the funding that was announced by the ICC back in April 2025. And my understanding is that this funding lasts until the end of this tour of England. Firstly, is that correct? Can you confirm that? And what next is the big question for these players and therefore the funding?
Yeah, so firstly, you're correct. So the funding kind of pot that was, as you say, announced last year, that comes to an end after this tour. I think roughly $1 million was created. So ICC, ECB, Cricket Australia, and BCCI as the key stakeholders in the activities of that year. So right now, for example, they are on in a Cricket Australia funded sort of mini tour up in Darwin. So yeah, those are the four kind of stakeholders in the sort of funding model, if you like, for this period that we're in. And Ali, I'm no more the wiser, none the wiser in terms of what next. I hope that there is a review of what this year has provided and what's been learned, and I hope that there is the opportunity for those involved in the delivery of this year to be able to feed back to the ICC, or particularly the task force that was set up to oversee this period. And I hope that there is the chance to really look at what's possible, because there has to be a way forward where, and we've seen from the FIFA announcement.
I was about to mention that. So FIFA, for those not aware, recently changed their rules to allow the football equivalent of the Afghan women's team. There is a refugee team that in football is called Afghan Women United. So FIFA have changed their rules to then allow that team that is supported by FIFA financially to compete in recognised FIFA events, so to compete on the international stage. Is there any sense, Claire, or have you got a sense of people within Cricket high up or at the ICC who have taken note of that or have paid attention? Could that provide a blueprint for cricket going forwards?
Yeah, so we had there's been a couple of meetings recently, ICC meetings. There's been a Women's Cricket Committee meeting a few weeks ago, and then a Chief Execs Committee meeting last week. And that FIFA announcement was discussed quite thoroughly in the Women's Cricket Committee meeting, and I think that will sort of go up to the ICC board when they meet in the summer. And if FIFA can find a way to make to create those playing opportunities and to find a route through, as you say, for football's equivalent of these cricketers, then there's a blueprint, and there's a body who's been bold and supportive and compassionate, and has made a really strong decision and announcement about how it wants to support those players. I think it would be a pretty significant abdication of responsibility, given the timing immediately after a Women's World Cup and at the end of this funding period for the Afghan refugee women's team, if there wasn't a senior ICC discussion about what next and what the international cricket community should be doing.
And if I was to ask you how optimistic you are about a future sustainable funding model for this group of players, what would you say at this point of time?
Well, I am an optimist, and I would be moderately optimistic. Not very. I don't think this current model is not a sustainable model, i.e., having four organisations contributing to a year's worth of activity that doesn't have a kind of pathway or a horizon that's being aimed for. So, ECB has been very happy to put in its roughly $250,000 share of that, and I actually think it'll be more than that, but I don't see how the current model is a sustainable one. I think it was a short-term solution to a quite high profile problem that cricket was having to look at itself about. My belief is that there are some very, very good people working in cricket, and they've got to be brave. Hard decisions have to be made, but sometimes those hard decisions aren't that hard,
And there is a fund, isn't there? The ICC has a
there
strategic
is, yeah. I mean,
development fund.
that is a route that could be, in terms of the actual funding model or the sustainable or a sustain. What is being funded? There's got to be before we think about where the money's coming from. What's the plan?
Yeah.
So
I think the
yes,
girls dream, don't they, of featuring in, say, that first level qualifier event for their region to say we are a recognised international team or a recognised refugee team that we can play against, whether it's Papua New Guinea or whatever country, say, in the
yeah, and
Australasia
the
region.
ICC has done a brilliant job of creating those, especially in the women's
Pathways.
game, those pathways. They're virtually all streamed now. There's amazing regional tournaments all over, every continent. And so there is no doubt that if we were to sort of extrapolate that, like this team of women could compete in that region with the likes of Vanuatu, for example, and Papua New Guinea, like you say, and they could be part of that East Asia Pacific community. That is not a difficult decision. Cricket has got no shortage of money. And as you say, there is a strategic fund that was set up a couple of years ago, that I know there is plenty in that fund that hasn't yet been allocated.
Claire Connor, then, the Deputy Chief Executive of the England and Wales Cricket Board. We have asked the ICC for an update about the future funding of the Afghanistan refugee women's team, and at the time of recording this, we are yet to receive a response. Charu, Jim, what did you make there of what you heard from Claire? Jim?
Well, it's uplifting to hear that they actually have a profile of presence and they're not completely abandoned as obviously they have been by their own government. So I don't know where this all goes. I don't think Claire or anyone else really does, but if they're part of the firmament of cricket in the near future, that's important. That they have some recognition, they have a place, even if they are kind of refugees from their own country and going about what they are doing. But, that in itself is very gratifying, and we just got to keep working away at it in the hope that they will have a much better place, reputation, and improve to the point where they can be competitive on the bigger stage. But it's all a bit evolutionary at the moment, I guess. So I wish them well and hope that they get a bit of that heat wave that you've been having in England so they can enjoy themselves in the English sun.
Yeah, well, Alison, listen, every step is important. And I'm glad that in England there's been such a long list of fixtures for this tour and some really good opposition. Of course, we'll find out what their standards are, I suppose, during the tour. But there are larger questions, and Claire did allude to them. One, of course, the long-term plan, because if this set of players is coming from one area, say in Australia, surely there are many such Afghan ladies in other parts of the world who would like to be up for selection or be playing cricket in their own way, wherever they are. And how do we put a global Afghan, I hesitate to use the word refugee, but an Afghan team possible? How does that even begin? I mean, if there are Afghans in, I don't know, South Africa or Canada or wherever else they are, they too must be surely trying to follow this game, play the game, because it's fairly popular within Afghanistan. So the challenge really is to make a global team. Now, you mentioned that whole FIFA thing, which is very important. And if FIFA can get some sort of a legitimate Afghanistan team going in football, then surely they can do so in cricket, because may I dare suggest that Afghanistan, in terms of global rankings, is nowhere near what Afghanistan is in cricket. They're right in the top 10, 12. And surely the women can rise very quickly to a serious level in the game as well. So the biggest question is how to put the whole diaspora together. But the current questions are being answered. If there's a little bit of funding and they're able to move around, showcase their talent, I think the level of belief will certainly rise. The media needs to obviously talk about what is going on with these Afghanistan cricketers, because unless there's that multiplication of visibility and knowledge of where Afghan women are, then it may just all be a little too short term. Nothing wrong with that, but it just needs to lead to bigger things, Alison.
Yeah, and this group of players want to be the role models, I suppose, for something bigger in the future. Like you mentioned, could there be a global team? But there needs to be something for other Afghan women around the world to look at and say, I can play cricket, I want to be like them. So this group really want to be the role models for that. And I think Claire was right to highlight the level of cricket that they will be playing when they are in England, because they are very much club level cricketers. They've got to start their journey somewhere. Remember, in Afghanistan, they'd only just really been contracted. Women's cricket was really in its infancy when the Taliban moved in. But those women still deserve the rights to play. We have had no public information, nothing from the Afghan task force since that was set up in April 2025. So there's no knowledge at all publicly about what they have been doing in that time. And Jay Shah himself, we remember when that funding was announced back in April last year, he said that this shows the ICC that we are deeply committed to fostering inclusivity and ensuring every cricketer has the opportunity to shine regardless of their circumstances. This initiative, he said, reflects our steadfast dedication to cricket's global growth and its power to inspire unity, resilience and hope. I think from their perspective, there is a huge hope that this England tour will go on a big step towards, again, creating that publicity and ensuring that something in the longer term is put into place. Well, next on Stumped, let's dive into the ICC Women's T20 World Cup, which isn't far away now and being held in England. 12 teams will compete, and England as hosts play the opening game on the 12th of June against Sri Lanka in Edgbaston. Now, they're in a group with Scotland, Ireland, West Indies and defending champions New Zealand. The other group's made up of Australia, Bangladesh, India, Netherlands, Pakistan and South Africa. I'm pleased to say we're joined by the England captain, Nat Sciver-Brunt. Nat, welcome. Great to have you along. First of all, just bring us up to date on your injury, because you're currently sitting out the India T20s. You've missed the New Zealand series before that with your calf. How's it all coming along?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Had some good news yesterday. I suppose now's the time to start pushing on. So that is the plan. I think everything is sort of going to plan as far as it can do at the moment. So it's been really, I guess, frustrating watching from the sidelines and not being able to help and feel like I'm missing out a little bit. But the girls have done brilliantly in my absence, and it's been great watching.
And do you feel you're on track for that opening game, or is it still a bit too early to say?
Well, having not run just yet, that's today. Today's first day back. So all the plans that we've been putting together to get me back on track is ending with that first game in mind. We've got a couple of warm-up games beforehand to practice my skills in as well. So it's going to plan thus far.
Now tell me about the World Cup, a home World Cup. First of all, what difference does that make with it being on home soil? Everything from the support, the travel, the logistics, the expectation.
I guess there's lots of things that are familiar about this summer. Obviously, we're playing at grounds that we've been to, driving on the bus. So I suppose familiar conditions for us in all sorts of ways, which is a nice feeling. I suppose it sort of settles you as a home side, I think, and like I say, the support that we'll get from the crowds and the public will be immense, I think. So really looking forward to experiencing that energy that you get from the crowd, and a bit of friendly fire at home.
Hi Nat, Jim Maxwell here in Sydney. World Cup's a bit elusive for England since 2017 in that famous victory. So how much pressure are you under going into this at home?
Yeah, it has been a long time since 2017, hasn't it? I actually can't believe that it's been almost 9 years. Doesn't feel that long ago, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, obviously, as a side, we would have loved to have picked up another trophy or two along the way. But maybe it's a full circle moment that we're back in England with another World Cup to compete for. I mean, there is obviously pressure being the home side, and the fans the the home fans will want us to do really well. But we're sort of as a group chatting about I guess what we can affect and the bubble that we can create around our team. I suppose to not let in that outside noise. But yeah, I suppose that's part and parcel of being a professional sports person. You're going to feel that pressure from the outside, aren't you? But yeah, I suppose it's who can deal with it the best really.
Part of your preparation, you've been spending some time in a camp with the British Army. Talk about that experience and what it may have done to help your leadership.
Yeah, we spent a few days with the Royal Tank Regiment, which was very, very different to any experiences we've had before. I suppose that is probably what it was designed to do, really, to introduce us to different ways of leadership, different ways of working as a team, and yeah, seeing where we can, I suppose, bring in those experiences to the cricket team. I think by all accounts they were impressed with our physical ability and the willingness to muck in with all the soldiers and stuff. And yeah, it was a really cool experience in the end. But yeah, some great learnings from a leadership point of view, which yeah, hopefully we can employ this summer.
So, did you learn how to drive a tank?
They wouldn't let us drive it, unfortunately. We all sort of got into the driver's seat or the passenger seat. I mean, it's a very, very cramped space in a tank. I'm not sure I would like to be shut in there for a few days.
Hi, Matt. This is Charu Sharma from Bangalore. Thanks for joining us. This is your 7th T20 World Cup, in case you weren't keeping count, and your second one at home. There's been a massive collection of experiences. How would you describe a then and now scenario in your game and the game overall?
I just think that the scores are so much higher now. I suppose the ceiling is a lot higher. And sort of T20 cricket felt a little bit like 50 overs in that you sort of have a bit of a power play and knock the ball around in the middle and then maybe go for it a bit at the end. Whereas now, people have the license to attack from ball one, keep it going, and I suppose look for scores over 200, which is really cool. I think just the development of the game has really accelerated. So yeah, I suppose our jobs as cricketers is to try and lead the way with that in our teams, but also I suppose develop skills to be able to either nullify the batter's biggest threats with the ball, or try and combat that with the bat. Which the sort of learning journey skill wise has been really cool, and I've really enjoyed, I suppose, exploring different ways of doing things. And yeah, my game is completely different to what it was in that first T20 World Cup. I think, well, obviously the position I'm batting in now is I would have been maybe 6 or 7 probably in that first World Cup. So completely different role to batting at 3.
And of course, the skipper as well. Congratulations. But there's no doubt that when India won the World Cup on home soil, it led to a lot of positive changes. And I'm sure that was the case in 2017 in England as well. But a victory on home soil this time around, what would you wish for in terms of more changes, more directions for English cricket?
The differences that we felt in 2017, I think the sort of media and the public were ready to welcome us with open arms, really. But we sort of stalled a little bit, I suppose, in our acceleration as a team and the winning sort of percentages. I suppose we sort of stalled a little bit. So I guess obviously winning helps. Keep you in the limelight and I suppose relevant in the public eye. But I think this World Cup is probably a bit more about leaving a legacy and making sure, I suppose, that doesn't happen. And the sort of undercurrents of, the grassroots cricket and inspiring the next generation are as important as, I suppose, the team now and what happens now. So yeah, hopefully we can sort of inspire as many people as we can during this tournament to, I suppose, leave a lasting legacy on the game. yeah, obviously, winning would help, I suppose.
Thanks so much for being with us on Stumped. Good luck for the rest of the rehab and, of course, the World Cup coming up.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that's it for Stumped for this week. Make sure you join us again next time. Thanks to Jim and to Charu. Do give us a like and subscribe here to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.